The red button. Welcome to our live board meeting. It is number 9. I kept misnumbering them number 5 for like 4 weeks in a row because of how our YouTube channel was, but we're now on number 9. Adriel will be joining us in a little bit, and whoever else wants to join from the link on the Facebook page. It's per usual, we don't have a lot on the agenda, but I put one thing, and then we can also just talk about,
whatever.
What's going on in the world. But is it SaveJet? All the other cool things going on in this space, whether under TogetherTec or not.
Yeah. So I haven't looked at the agenda. What did you end up putting on there?
When I was listening to and Adriel and Cello, and I remember who the fourth person. I picture his name or his face and not his name, Matush, talking, and Adriel had mentioned you guys kind of geeked out on the tech for a period of time. And there was something Adriel said of wanting to get information on, I think, which platform to use or which, I don't even know. I'm that under techie that it didn't stick in my brain. But so I just wanted to talk about what would it look like to have maybe a few topics that are theoretically ones we kind of cover once, have people on board to talk about so that we could get more of an understanding of like all of the platforms that are out there and what's good and what's bad about them. And just basically a video series that's designed for that information to be disseminated. I don't even know if there's really a use for it though, because of course all of those videos already exist on YouTube, but they're not done in a way that's like, what is out there? What's the best one? And even just having that open conversation about those different things would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Although that will also change pretty quick for the tech one. Because the one Adriel was suggesting, I would have recommended 4 years ago, but I no longer recommend. So that may be a periodic one, and also like the post I did today about a new no-code solution. It is one of those things that I think this kind of TogetherTec and project space will be something we're continuously exploring. But yeah, I do like the idea. So that still seems to me to kind of fall under the thing like, oh, we need to have an episode about marketing for projects. And then you're also covering marketing, but your other one about marketing was solving, that wasn't about marketing for projects. That was about the problem with marketing and how can we make marketing serve humans better, right?
Yeah. It was marketing in general, not necessarily TogetherTec's marketing for our projects and how we do that. And so that is, we've tried to have our roundtables and people just come to them and then bring whatever's going on at the moment. And we had talked about doing more of a themed one of like, we'll talk about marketing this time and seeing if people come. And the IdeaCafe we do every other week is kind of supposed to be that, like, let's have one on marketing and ask the marketing question. But yeah, having like I guess just keeping the intention that we keep it here under the marketing. And if you want to do marketing, we have one, because we can keep going back to it. And eventually we'll have one that's better than the other ones. And that whatever one's the best, not the newest, whatever one's the better with the best one, right? Could be the marketing one for what does marketing look like under TogetherTec. But I was more looking to like brainstorm those topics. Like what would those whenever you and Adriel and we're talking about last week was like, it was one topic, right? It wasn't 4, 5, 6 of them and saying what.
Yeah. And that's interesting because it'd be interesting to focus both on, and maybe even have them be separate episodes, or the first half be kind of an evergreen discussion. What do we look for in tech? What's the difference between, do we really want to use the fanciest thing, the newest thing, or do you need something with some history and some backup, so yeah, kind of an evergreen discussion. And then maybe I was just thinking it might be interesting to then kind of have, okay, then what's the kind of the recommended things if we have some experts like me and Martusha on the call, who kind of know the space. Yeah, that would be interesting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so to list out those topics.
Yeah, like what would they be? But since I'm not in that, like, because there's the tech list and then the project list, right? Like marketing and finance are more at the project list. Yes, they apply to tech. Whereas the tech is also anyone, like, let's say you have a tech idea and you're not as far as long as Adriel and you, what, like kind of like a video series lean startup, right? Where you could watch this and say, okay, well, this is, even though we don't actually know how to do it, right? Like actually just having a conversation on all of those pieces of like outsourcing, right? If you wanted to outsource, who would you hire to outsource? Which platform would you use for that? Like going through what would we be doing? And then you weren't at the solution raising for community. There was this concept of breaking 100 groups of 100, right? To kind of the plumbing group would tackle plumbing, but they're going to tackle it as a more meta problem than like plumbing for this community.
Right.
And doing something somewhat like that for tech, right? Of like, okay, well, breaking it off into this group and this group. And if you're dealing with marketing, there's this group without breaking off, because we can't dissipate our stuff anymore, but having like, how can we make this space useful now? It's useful for the three of us and for other, but like, how do we make it even more powerful, right? And more that the stuff we're doing in and of itself is valuable.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Also, so much of the advice out there is focused on profit. I mean, a lot of it's, I guess it's good that today, even a lot of, Silicon Valley and stuff, they're trying to do stuff that's more beneficial. They're not quite as profit driven as they used to be in the past. But a lot of it is focused on find the problem you're going to solve needs to be something that people will pay for, as opposed to be based on the amount of value. Hey, Martish. As opposed to the amount of value that it produces, right? Which there is some correlation between profit and value, but it's not an exact match. Where we're almost focusing on those things that are not profitable, because all the profitable stuff is being handled, right? Yeah. So how's it going, Martush?
It was a very productive week on one hand. So it's going well. My project is moving along. This close to releasing an MVP, which will be like that will be something finally. I did read the specs for the week elections. I think that's doable. Like MVP for that is 1 weeks for initial setup and the first version, like alpha, and another week for making it like more better. I think that should be enough for like initial, for what's in the spec at least.
I actually have not seen the spec, so I don't know if I missed that or if Adriel didn't send it my way.
He shared it with me, the Google Doc, and this is what he showed us on the previous meeting. So that's it, and it's quite like the first version is quite simple. So I think it's doable within 2 weeks, unless unexpected, but it should be doable.
That's 1 person for 2 weeks, you're thinking?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I'm really curious what you thought is the correct time estimation.
For some reason I didn't end up seeing the specs, so I don't know if that's on my side or if Adriel just didn't send it to me yet. But I'll have to look back and connect with him and see. But from the discussion, which I think he gave us a pretty good outline on the meeting, 2 weeks sounds about right. I wouldn't disagree with that estimate. Jubilee and I were just discussing. I don't know how to outline it, Jubilee. Who
knows how? We're just working through some stuff, figuring out how to make this space powerful. Well, it's kind of when you guys were talking. It's like there's all these different projects, right? DAO Stack, Holochain, us. I just had a conversation with a different technology cooperative, RChain, this morning. I just watched a Jordan Hall video where he's starting Memento. Is that what it's called? Memento something on it.
Oh.
And I get what I want to do is kind of bring it back to basics and map it, not without needing to do the work. So what I mean is all of those people have had the conversation of how do you do governance? How do you, how do we trust each other? How do we do those things? And looking at, okay, if we were going to start from scratch, that's what we would need. Who out there is already doing these things, right? We want a team building app. I know we've looked at team building ones and none of them are really, but like to be able to say, here's what even just a list of what exists, and then start working through having people maybe that like one of the team building ones coming together and saying why they like that one, right? And having it be, I don't know, I'm working through things in my head right now. This is also like the frustration with all of the frustration and beauty that all of the tech is happening right now, and it's only happening more and more rapidly. And there is this division between, like, watching Jordan Hall talk. I love Jordan Hall, and I also think all of those people are very elitist. They, like they're looking for the top of the top to work with. And although I get why they're doing that, and I'm glad they're doing that, I think they're losing a big piece of what's out there, which is that we need something that like everyone can see and everyone can trust. Anyway, everything's so complex and out there, and it's hard to know, like, why are there so many of these things, and how does DAO Stack compare to Holochain, and how does they, like, to truly understand when a tech project comes on board, what is it? All the sense-making ones. How does WikiLection differ from Reason Score? Like, there's something that happens behind closed doors. It's the beginning of all of these projects that is like, right, why are they all working on the same thing over and over again? And us too. Like, what does that look like, right? Like, what is the thing we're all creating? And like, what is that? Since we're working on our projects individually and we're bringing them together to this space to say, what are the common pain points and how do we solve them? Somewhat the more meta conversation of that, but maybe this isn't the place for that. Like, we have a very specific view of that, but there's something there where the two can kind of come together and we can serve our projects while also serving our bigger mission of creating a tech. Like, I don't know, there's something here that I'm still, as I said, working through.
Yes, all of that, and I totally agree. I kind of, I'm not sure if it's the right place to mention it, but I imagine something like, apart from having a list of everything that's going on out there and all the projects, which is obvious starting point, but immediately what was also missing is the talking part. Like each and every entry on the list, this project A, B, C, D, and whatever, that should immediately follow with some kind of an interview, like actually talking to the people and trying to find out some common ground or possibility of cooperation, and just letting them know that other stuff exists. That was what's missing, I think.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder whether it'd be good, but I don't know if it's possible with the rate of change to have a comparison and contrasting each of these things. Now, of course, not everything. I mean, you don't have to compare and contrast every single one, but if you put them in buckets, and if they're in the same bucket, or I guess an item could exist in multiple buckets, right? Then kind of a compare and contrast to the other things that are close enough that they seem to be attacking kind of the same problem. But that also sounds like a lot of work.
Actually, I have an idea for this. My idea was while creating a list of projects and contacting people responsible for those projects, I would say something, hello, I'm creating a list, and I described you on the list such and such. And if you want to change something, please come, log in, and update your information, because I might be wrong. And that would give them some incentive to at least take a look what was written about them, and hopefully they would feel compelled to update information about themselves, and by doing that, just put some effort, some energy into this list to make them maybe read the list and get familiar with other projects on the list, something like that. So we don't have to do it ourselves, because I think owners of projects should be interested in updating and spreading information about their project using our system.
Yeah, I think though, even if that doesn't quite get us to the comparison between the two projects. Because just two written descriptions doesn't actually explain why these two things are different.
Then I would add in the description something like, this compares to project C, which is this and this. And I wouldn't go as far as saying the project C is slightly better because, and then project A, people would, no, we are better. So,
Well, yeah, and oftentimes it's not a better thing, but it is that they're coming at it from different angles. Because holochain is not a blockchain, but our chain, it does list themselves as a blockchain. But I bet they are trying to solve the same issue. So that'd be something interesting to say, is that holochain is not blockchain, right? Because that would differentiate it from all the other kind of ones in that similar space. Yeah.
I guess, so there's all the social media platforms, and we don't own any of them. We don't own any of the data on any of them. We all know that. And part of what some of the blockchains have tried to do is say, okay, well, you own your data, and it doesn't matter where it's presented. You have the background, and you can post it on Twitter and post on there, but you have this. And there's somewhat of an irony that then DAO Stack, Holochain, I don't know about our chain, but all, like, probably Memento, are all so, like, are they creating the back end that, okay, even if Holochain disappears, all of the stuff is still there, and you can move it to the DAO Stack, you can move it to Memento, and vice versa? Or no, they're creating a new thing that's like, it's going to solve all the world's problems, but only if it's under this umbrella. And if the umbrella fails, everything fails. And yes, I know we're also kind of doing that, but we're also trying to do it in a way that it's like, and we're transparent, so even if we fail, everyone can see. And so it benefits the next one. And there's something about, it's beautifully happening because all these people are doing it, and hopefully somebody succeeds and somebody creates it. And at the same time, it's dissipating that energy. And why this has come up is a couple things, which is this one big conflict that kind of happened behind, around, adjacent to Game B, between someone who was like, I have a tech project that I love and it's my baby, and talked to someone who they thought should be a professional, and they didn't think they showed up as a professional. Now we need a code of conduct and they were really upset that this person had called their idea vaporware. And I'm like, really? Because isn't it like, that's what we all have, right? Is until it's real, and even when it's there, it can be vaporware. And so it's vaporware I'm trying to solve. Not like, there's something when you have, in science, you do a study and then you publish it. There's a lot of information that's missing because we don't register null studies. If your study didn't come to a neutral or the wrong conclusion, it just doesn't get published, right? So it's not in there, and that's very important information that's missing.
Yeah.
And I feel that kind of with vaporware, because the idea of vaporware is like, oh, I'm going to create this, and then it never gets created. And there could be a dishonest component to that, right? Give me your money, and then I have the money. I never meant to make it, which is, I think, what they mean when they say vaporware. But there's also like, I have an idea and I want it to exist, and then how much time and energy I put into it, it still goes into the vapor, right? It still doesn't exist anymore in the longer sphere. And so how can we have people, and then there's also this new person in Game B who stumbled upon it in a weird way and is like, really doesn't understand what Game B is and is trying to make it be Game A. It's like, well, where's the leadership? I need to talk to people in charge, and we need to figure out how to get this going. And it's like, who are you? Like, what? And there's something about, like, it's like, do you realize everyone here has a social media platform? Because he found it through the social media Game B. And he's like, why Game B social media? I'm like, if you don't know what Game B is, you might be in the wrong group. And he's like trying to create a social media platform. I'm like, so is everybody else. And it's like, okay, so how can we honor all of that, right? That people have ideas that aren't being done, and they can feel really upset that other people that are these leaders aren't listening to them. Well, why would they? Right? They're not going to say, like, why are they sitting down with you and not like, this doesn't make sense. The vapor, like, there's something about when someone comes up with an idea, it could be registered just to say, hey, this is something I'm working on. Then everyone else could also, yeah, that's also my domain and my domain and my domain, right? Oh, we're all working on social media. How great. Does anyone's exist? No, then they're all vaporware anyway until they exist somewhere else, right? To have somewhat of like a register of like, and I know it exists, it's GitHub, it's all these other things, but like something about, it doesn't matter whether you're open source, whether it's for profit, whether it's game A or game B, that we're trying to create it. What is our purpose for creating it? How do we trust it? How do we know it's going to be long-term? Like I don't know, there's something there. And again, it's just working through it because it's like tension inside with all this stuff.
There's nothing funny about saying my vaporware is the best. It's like, no, mine is the best. And it's all just ideas and blueprints maybe. And some, I know how to fix it. It's just, I still need to work on the documentation and maybe the code. And yeah, and totally recording everything is important. Not only the good projects that are going somewhere, but good projects that are not going anywhere, and not very good projects, because then the knowledge domain is complete, and only then we know what has a chance of working and what was proven to not work. So no one else needs to work on something that is not going to fly anyway, unless they have a way of making it fly, in which case they're welcome. But yeah.
Yeah, I've been in this kind of space of a lot of people who are trying to build things that they think will have a great impact on the world. And my assessment of most of the projects is that they were doomed to fail from the beginning. Now, part of that is my ego. And I do know that a majority of the people I share my project with have that opinion of my project. And they still may be right. I have not proven that wrong. So, yeah, I don't know. I was just going to say I've had a lot of experience with that and no solutions.
Yeah, no, and it might also, like, I came in September in Game B. I'm like, I know how to solve Game B. Who do I talk to around here? I wasn't quite like that. And when people were like, there is none, I didn't keep pushing it.
But you felt that, right? That was
yeah,
in the back of
like,
the head.
It's like, do you understand? I know all how to do this. Like, it's there. Yeah. And now it's like honoring that, right, we're all there. That's all of us. And how great that this is here, that all these people are here. But there's a tension that happens there, right? There is no leader. We're all leading and we're all blind. We're all like, it's a chaotic, beautiful mess. And just try to make some sense of it. Like watching Jordan Hall's video, and he's starting this tech thing. And there was part of it where I was like, parts of it I can see interwoven in it what we talked about in September, where he didn't have these ideas necessarily. And then there's what happened in the Game B space between this professional and this person who had the vaporware. And that he was like, well, other people have stolen my ideas, and I don't get any credit for them, and I don't. And so watching this video with Jordan Hall, I was like, oh, how beautiful if a piece of what I said went into this, right? But then if I was also like, and I better get a piece of it too, right? Because one, it's Jordan Hall, right? Like, it's not like he didn't know any of this stuff, but it's like, and that's it. It's all interwoven together. So my issue, and this is like, he's looking for more of an elitist. How do we get people together? The top at this realm and this realm and this realm, so that we can create this and then open it up to other people. And I don't think you can create it without opening it up to other people, because otherwise you're creating it for the Jordan Halls and not the neurotypicals and disabled people and people who maybe Game A doesn't work for. But there's something about that, like what he was saying, I was like, I can see part of me interwoven here, and that is beautiful, and I like that. And at the same time, I can see how, from this other person's standpoint, and it had nothing to do with Jordan Hall, that if that had happened, it'd be like, I better get a piece of this, right? Like what percentage of this is my responsibility? And the truth is, I don't know if you could ever measure that. I don't know if Jordan himself would ever say that he got any of the ideas from me, right? But it's not about that. It's about like the interwovenness of, hey, I had this conversation. I know it sparked this in me and it sparked that in me. And I don't know why that has anything to do with vaporware, except that Like someone has an idea and they want to hold on to it. It's the best idea. And then also if anyone else is like, I told you about my social media platform and then you made a social media platform, like that's mine. It's like, no, it's not. It's an idea. And so part of what I'm talking about, the vaporware, I guess, like registry is that you can say, it's not about proprietariness because it is about, right, I have an idea for a food app. Cool, awesome, that's great. Did it get made? I made a food app. Okay, why did it succeed or not succeed, right? And actually looking at the ones that exist and are currently in the field in the market, how do they compare to each other? And then the ones that they're like, I have an idea, great, then we're following it through so we know if we haven't heard from it in 10 years, it's not getting made, right? Like more just that null, like the null scientists registry, which would be really useful. And I think actually has started having somewhat of like a register of we're working on this project, not so other people can't work on it, which is also what I feel happens under Holochain and DAOstack and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, someone's on contracts, so you don't need to. It's like, wait, are they the best people on contracts? Are they going to do better than this new person? Like, I don't know. And so being able to find who's working in what space, who to contact, and then also like, so you can somewhat come together and, or not. I don't know. There's something, again, it's coalescing. So it's not a structured thought.
Yeah, and like in the argument debate tree space, several of us were working for 4 years before we found each other. It would have been great if we had found each other earlier before our ideas had solidified. I mean, we're still not working on each other's projects very much because we all think we're right on these different opinions, but we are learning and growing from each other and supporting each other. So that was great to find each other. But yeah, we'd all been on social media talking about this and searching on this and just still had not found each other. So yeah.
So yeah, a bit of talking to and like interviews could make wonders. Maybe I just thought how just imagine game B won the world and aliens come in and they say, we come in peace, take us to your leader, and we say we have no leaders. Yeah, that sounds like a good beginning of a science fiction movie. Is there a video of Jordan Hall talking about this? Because I feel like I missed something.
Oh, you mean the one I'm talking about?
Yes.
I don't, so somebody sent me it in an email.
Mm-hmm.
Saying he was talking about me at one time point. So I listened to it. I was like, he's not talking about me. I'm not in any way involved in this. And that is where I got it from. And so I think it might be an unlisted video that's not because the URL for Memento will be out in like he said a week or two. And he doesn't know the URL yet. They call it yet. Okay. And so it's not one I looked at from anywhere else. It was someone who sent me it 2 days ago, and I can send it. I can post it in our projects page. I mean, it's available. It'll be a little disjointed, but I'll post it under this. So we have it. That makes way more sense. Yes.
Okay. For the record, this is what we talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ghibli, did we explore your topic? Well, I don't have another topic. I was just.
It's like I said, it's just like the working through, like, what do we do about vaporware? And so what I think I'm going to do is like have a conversation with people who've had an idea that's vaporware, right? That like, I don't think you and Adriel qualify because yours isn't the same, right? Your guys is just too far along to be like, it's not in that category, right? You guys are continuing until you succeed or fail, but like having an idea and then why didn't it succeed? Like even Jim Rudd, because when I came in, I'm like, technology, it's the solution. And I get it. He's like, we've been there, tried that, right? And it's like, what went wrong, right? Like, and so I think what I'm going to put up in the Game B space is, hey, anyone who's had anything in the realm of technology that's failed, are you open for an interview or like a conversation together of like, hey, how did it fail? Why did it fail? And then maybe there's some spark from that.
In my hometown, we actually had, for about a year there, a monthly video. We called it Fail, Learn, Grow. And we would interview local startup founders who had a failed business or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. So yeah, I think that'd also be very. I think that'd be something people would like to see.
Definitely. The best articles I read about doing business or starting projects, they were about how to fail and what went wrong. Because a success story is, yeah, it's very nice that someone made all the right choices, or not all the right choices, but enough right choices that he succeeded and actually did something. But what went wrong is much broader and much more interesting area. So yeah, that would be nice to have.
Yeah, and I know two founders. I mean, they weren't in the game B space, but they both took 3 to 6 months off their job, like I'm doing now, and started something, and then shut it down. Had to shut it down. Didn't really gain traction. So I could tap those, and if we ever wanted to. I'm not sure if it'd be as helpful. They're not so much the game B, but they were hoping to have a positive impact on the world. They weren't purely profit driven.
Just the weirder, harder space to be in, because it's like you need to be profitable to stay there, but you're like, I'm here for the greater good, and you still don't. It's still crickets. It's like there's a bigger meta problem we're not solving here, and that's what I'm talking about, like solving that for vaporware. That when somebody has an idea, how do you get the best product out of it? How do you get and I'm just tackling it from all angles. But there's something about this particular thing in game B of everyone coming, everyone has a project. And some people have viable actual projects that are world saving and we want them out there. And there's also people who have less than stellar ideas for save, in my opinion, but like that's my opinion, right? So it's like how do you know whether there's merit or not? And how do you, especially like it's different because you have the skill to make your thing. So even if other people can't see your vision, you can see it, you can continue moving forward. I'm in a different place where I can't make anything I have a vision on, except for now I'm starting to realize I can create the IdeaCafes and the solution raisings and the things that aren't tech-based. And then hopefully there's tech that comes on board at some point in time. But as I pointed out with tech, that people, like a lot of time is wasted coming up with projects that aren't even putting in that work or paying someone else to create that work when they aren't viable to begin with. And yet, that's how we all learn. Like that's how the agile individual learns, right? Is like having enough failed projects, but it's like, where does it fail, right? You have an idea. Okay, I know for me, just getting a team of people together to work on it, right? It's like, okay, what's not quite, like we just had our first process raising on Thursday. I was like, something failed here. I need to write out something. And yet it didn't in any way. Like it's going to keep, we're going to meet next Thursday and the Thursday after. But I'm like, there's something miscommunicated between like Eric and Raymond. And I'm like, okay, there's something missing that's beautiful actually. And it's, which I know, like I need to communicate my ideas in a crappy way. So they come back to me in confusing ways and then I can make it a little less crappy. It's just a little less. Like I'm like, oh, that's where I went wrong. Okay, I can re-explain it with just that part of it. And like, yeah, you put yourself out there, you get better, your idea gets better, but there's something about the vaporware in general that isn't about us and our individual projects. It's about the world. Like it's about that these things come into existence and go out and the idea itself is good, but we don't, all the issues we've been tackling all along with TogetherTec of like the marketing and the funding and how do we make there might be just one little thing wrong with the idea, but because we don't have ownership or transparency or marketing, like you're not going to find out about that. And so then it goes by the wayside.
Yeah, and I think the like project raising is a part of that because I started thinking, oh, it'd be great if we had this. Then I realized, oh, we have that. That's project raising for part of it. So like I was thinking a SWAT team of people that come into your idea and they think about how to, I don't know the right word here. It's not like improve the idea because you don't want to change the idea too much. You want to kind of evaluate the idea. But once again, just because the idea, that experience of going through and learning why the idea doesn't work, doesn't mean you shouldn't. Like Slack, the company Slack started out as a video game maker. They pivoted when they ran out of money. If they'd never gone together and made this company to make this thing, Slack wouldn't exist. So then I don't even know if we want to deter or derail someone from that learning experience. But so when I was thinking of it, I said, well, that's very similar to solutions raising. So what's a little bit different than solution raising that says, it would be really interesting to have the SWAT team come in to help you validate an idea quicker, maybe to accelerate that learning path. Yeah.
It's like it's kind of the opposite of a project raising, because a project raising is like, how do we help you raise your project? And a SWAT team is like, how do we help you take it apart? Which honestly, because it's like the individual is the one who gets to choose which one of those things. Like I know for me, with the idea of TogetherTec and technological cooperative and all the ideas of how tech saves us, I'm not stopping unless somebody kills me or somebody saves the world. Like there is no stopping. Yes, every project can fail, every relationship can whatever. I'm not stopping unless someone breaks it for me. Unless someone actually points out the flaws in like actual system. And it's not about convincing me. It's like, I have to see the flaw, right? That it's big enough that it's like my life's work is not here. Because what's working isn't working. Like what's out there isn't working. I can see something better. And so I'm going to keep trying to work towards it until it's there or it's not. And I don't want to take that away from other people. And yet I do, because I want people to take that away from me. I don't anymore. But before, when I was all alone, I was like, someone either needs to come join me or like break this for me, because I'm going to waste my life here.
I mean, I would love if someone would come in and give me proof that Reason Score will not provide as much value as I think. Well, not provide a sufficient amount of value. I'm pretty sure it won't provide as much value as I think it will, but still it'll be enough value to spend more time on it. But I could be wrong. I could get a year down the path and realize that it doesn't matter how good this is at making the truth obvious, that if the level of effort to get that level of learning is too high, then people will not do it. There's not enough money to pay. There's definitely a chance of there being a wall on why this idea won't work. But yeah, until I have irrefutable proof of that, I'm going to still bang my head against the wall, which I have been doing. I've given up like 4 or 5 times. But a week later, I'm like, okay, what's my next big idea? And I said, oh, this idea won't work until I can have this truth seeking. I keep coming back to it because every other idea would be so much better if I had this first core thing done. So, but yeah, it would be nice if someone would sit down long enough and actually prove, not just say, oh, I don't think that's going to work, or here's why, because a lot of times they'll bring up, and they're not like absolute blocks. They're just like walls that we have to figure out a way over, but they're not a reason to stop. So yeah. So I wonder whether it's getting to that spot faster or just a group of people to come around. And a lot of the ideas, it's just validation. Although it doesn't work with my idea because I keep trying things out and no one grabs onto it, but I keep thinking it's like, well, it just means I'm not explaining it right. But maybe that's not it, right? It could be that. Yeah.
Well, it's coming together. Like it is something that is, and this is what I'm talking about like the vaporware and everything else. Like it seems like the people, as long as you hold the vision, you're going to keep moving forward with it. And thank God. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there's certain, like I look at the idea, there's certain ideas I've come across in Game B that I'm like, this is in no way a solution. The idea itself. And I think separating the idea from the person is actually really powerful to say, okay, well, am I trying to not hurt Bentley's feelings or am I trying to hurt Bentley's feelings? It has nothing to do with the idea, right? Versus the idea itself. And then also, can I understand it to be able to critique it anyway, right? Like to be able to understand how you think this should work before I'm like, oh, that can't work. There's no way we can have, group sense making. Which is what I'm coming up with in process raising. It's like, well, there couldn't possibly be a way 10,000 people can come together and create a project. So we like have this, what's the word? Like a reduction, narrowing down process. I'm like, that's not actually what I'm trying to say. I actually think we can create something with 10,000 people or I wouldn't be doing it. We just aren't there yet. And so it's like I could see the vision enough that I will keep moving in that direction. And there's, what was I saying? That like the what I was trying to say that I didn't get to was the ideas I've heard from people that I don't think are solutions. I don't know if I would look at them differently and see the beauty if, let's say, they came from Jordan Hall, right? Like, what if they came from a different person? And, or what if this person who's maybe not the best at communicating the idea, but the idea is really good, what if somebody else was able to communicate this idea, right? Like, what if you had, Russell Brand explain this to me? Yeah, then I'd definitely be behind, right? Like, what's not going to go viral with Russell Brand explaining it? And so, like that, I don't know where I'm going with that, but.
So I was just thinking, have we seen any ideas that we knew up front could not be successful? And then do you think we could have proved it and saved some resources? Have you seen any that you know for a fact wouldn't have worked?
Yes, and I did try, and the person wasn't open to having a conversation. Now that's from my side, right? Because from their side, they're like, you didn't look at it enough. You didn't like really look at it. I'm like,
I really understand.
I did. Like, if part of it is this person couldn't have a video conversation, and I can't not have a video conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like we need to have an actual conversation.
Just had different communication styles.
Yeah, and so it was like, but there's just not a solution here. And in my opinion. And then there's other ones where I'm like, ooh, I love this 90%. And those are the ones I actually want to deal with, right? Like here's the 10% I don't like, and it's for you to accept it or fix it, right? Like, it's not, you don't need to take on my worldview. Just here's why I don't think blockchain. Here's why I don't think, that's going to happen, right? And that is also the space, because it's, like, we're trying to solve things for other people instead of solving them for ourselves, because of course that's what Game A is, and we have to do it that way, right? Like, you have to put yourself in other people's shoes and say, how do they make decisions on reasons, so that you can create reason score that they will use it. At the same time, if there was a way to like bring it from the ground, I have no idea how we do that with reason score, but from the ground up of like, how do you, and the closest will be tomorrow when we do the solution raising, is like, how do we get our information? How do we, what could that look like with 10,000 people? And $100,000, but having,
there are some ideas that can come up that way, and the challenge with reason scores, it's kind of like inventing the light bulb. You wouldn't have gotten there unless you tried out 1,000 different materials. Like they literally tried 1,000 different materials till it was a piece of metal from a folding fan that ended up having the right thing to where it worked for 13 hours. And that was a success. We got a light bulb to last 13 hours. Can you imagine having light bulbs that don't last that long? So yeah, there are different groups. Some of them, some things take a big R&D cycle, and some of them it's like, oh, we know kind of what we're getting at. The question is, how do we make it an interface to where the people can use it? And then it's a lot of really good input from people. So like for the reason score idea, although I'm going off tangent, I got to figure out how to get the math to work. And then after that, there's tons of ways to represent it, and I need people's input on how do I display this information in a way that is meaningful and useful to you, and how do I collect it from you in a way that's not, dragging glass across your skin or something, which is what it turned out. It's like I'm gonna have to like hire somebody because it's too boring for me to do, or too painful. So yeah, that's different. Yeah, different ideas do definitely have different kind of investment levels. But yeah, so I was just thinking, is there a way I could really have helped? Because there's like, like I have some concerns about Adriel's idea that he's not here to defend himself from, but I'm still gonna support him on that. And I don't, none of them are like, oh, you can't do this, because his idea I think has some definite possibilities. There's just some risks that we have to mitigate. Like, will he have enough funds to get it produced? And that's why it's really important that when Martush and I are helping him develop this, that we're making sure that what we're doing will get him to a point where he can get some traction, right? There's a lot of features we could put in, and if we were just Game A software developers, we'd be like, oh, there's a feature? Yeah, we'll put it in. But we kind of have a bit of a responsibility to say, we're happy to do this, but are you sure that this is getting you closer to funding, support, or is this just a nice to have feature. And that's why I'm very careful about doing development for anyone in this space, even donating time. It's more like I don't want them to pay me for something unless I really know that it's going to be successful. Go ahead.
That is, yeah. It feels morally not 100% obvious because I'm not sure how to express this, but if we are going to, and the idea is to create something that is not game A, basically. So we are not doing this for profit, and on the other hand, there is. It's complicated. I wanted to say something different, I think. So I want to say also something different. I did not see any one particular idea that I would be sure it's not going to succeed in any way possible. It's like I haven't seen anything that I would know is going to fail completely. Same with your projects and wiki actions. I might have some reservations or some ideas what would need to be done differently, but I don't think I can state them before before we can show something that is working and before something exists that can be actually improved, because it's hard to make a theory about what we can improve when there is nothing physical to improve yet. So I always prefer to code something and have it working and then improve it once it's there. So there's feedback relating to something that people actually use and are able to see, as opposed to something that they think is not going to work because something. So yeah, practice first.
Yeah. And sometimes a small bit of development or work can get you to that validation point.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking through whether there's any. I mean, I've given lots of people advice on ideas, and sometimes I was helpful, and sometimes I really wasn't. Yeah, I don't know if there's a. I mean, yeah, I think that there probably is there's probably something there that we could figure out how to improve the efficiency in that area of taking idea to kind of proof point.
Yeah, and then there's also like when you have an idea, it's also sometimes in its infancy, especially when there isn't a thing to critique and improve, of like all the emotional stuff that comes up when someone's critiquing it, and knowing whether you're capable of handling that, right, in any moment. But I kind of want 3 conversations for this vaporware thing. Like I want people who had the idea and never got it made. Those are the people in game B. I have the best idea. Why aren't you guys giving me money and asking to make this for me? That's me. I know. It's like, and then people who've made it and it's a beautiful product, but they just didn't have users, right? The marketing was off. And then people who had a product, had users, it was working, but it wasn't financially sustainable, right? Like it just wasn't able to last a long time. And then what went wrong? But I'm going to put up a post in Game B just asking for people to have a conversation, setting off a one-on-one, and then having the conversation about why did it fail.
That'd be very interesting to see. And since you kind of see yourself as one of those people, if you need someone to interview you about your experience, then I can probably do that if you want to be a subject of one of those meetings.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I haven't failed, Bentley.
No. But you did that emotional journey, right? Yeah. But you did that emotional journey where you come in with a great idea, and then it's like, oh, I gotta, my egos take a couple bruises, and then
It's like, Oh, you know,
I just
quite
think you
safe.
have an interesting story in that space. So, yeah, and I could probably talk about mine. The only, yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess the reason score is not there yet to be in that conversation, to be a value. I mean, the one other project that I did that was personal that I ended up really shutting down was just a podcast, and that was because I was way too vague on the topic. So no one really ever listened to it. But there's not a lot of learning there, so.
I know there's like, I have yet to have a one-on-one conversation with Jim, but I'm going to approach him about this one because I'm like, I want to know.
Yeah,
Like, if you don't think
that's-
technology is the answer, what was the failure? What didn't work? And what was, and get his opinion on that. And I don't know if he's open to that. And then I know there's a bunch of people in there. And then I do want a bunch of people like me who have the like vaporware idea, right? It's not vaporware because it hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
It could, because it's not made. It's not financed. There's not even like a team making it necessarily, right? But it's still not failed because I'm still holding on to it. I haven't let it go. So all of those, right? Like people who are like, I have the social media platform. Like, we take a step back and realize that no, you don't, because no one does, because you don't have your friends and family. Like, you need millions of people on your platform, and that's the point of a social media platform. Anyway, that's not like getting people who have the idea and have a conversation of what's broken here. Why can't we work together on one, especially with social media or team building or any of this stuff? And there's something broken between, as an individual, I like to create in my room, yet I can't communicate it to the world. And now I'm enjoying creating with people. But we all like kind of creating by ourselves and with people. We don't know how to like, definitely don't know how to create with 10,000 people, but like what the difference between solving it alone in your bedroom and in your mind and solving it with people. And I'm in that stage and I needed to get there through game B. I came into the space solving it by myself and now I'm like, okay, but now I got to solve it with people. And like getting into that as a more meta for me, not for necessarily TogetherTec.
I'm not sure if something is broken. I'm not sure if it's the right word to use, because there's something needed. And I think technology is a big part of the answer. But there's missing key piece in this. The way I see it, the images I have now are like neurons that are separate, and they need something to realize they are part of the network and connect. That's the one thing. And the second thing is when you have all the static electricity in the cloud, in order for the lightning to happen, there is some condition that needs to be present, needs to be there. So there's something missing, but not necessarily something broken, because something broken would imply that there's something we can fix. But I think it's more like there's something we can add to the equation in order to make this all work, to make the connectivity happen.
That is exactly what I meant by this is broken. There is a piece missing. There's something here that's not quite working, and I don't mean it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and do you think you're phrasing it mostly as why can't we coalesce and work together? Because I mean, I see a lot of that, but I just want to make sure that that's your core thesis.
I don't know what the core. It's literally, I can save the world alone in my bedroom. I can't communicate it with the rest of the world. I'm now encountering all these other people who also have saved the world alone in their bedroom. What is missing to get us to come together, go back to square one and work, you know what I mean? Create like, What is the missing piece? I liked the neuron because it's like we're all firing neurons, but there isn't there's a neurological system, right? So that's just pain. That's just like, send out a signal that's broken. That is broken. And it's like, yeah, so there's something missing, and yet the neuron just keeps firing, and then it does find its pathway in actual biology. But yeah, like there's something missing, and it's that I'm trying to get at, and yet it's brand new, and it's like something that's no one solved, because the point is, what do you mean you want to work with something from the ground up? Like you just build it and it fails or succeeds. you find a small group of people and you build it, or it succeeds, like or it fails or succeeds. It's like, no, there's something here that's just like almost ready.
So the point is not to become the biggest neuron in the neighborhood. The point is to be the right neuron in the right place and connect to the right other neurons, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, have a connection at all. Because right, I mean, you know,
Hey, sinus.
yeah. So I'm in part of a group that has 6 or 7 developers. I mean, some of them are researchers and stuff, all working on some sort of debate tool. That we all have our own tools. We're not able to coalesce around a single idea. And I don't know if that's I mean, it seems to be a bug. Might part of it be a feature, but yeah.
But is it because you disagree about some core idea, how it should look like, or how it should work like, or
We
how would you define
are
it?
hitting at slightly different benefits. So, like for this example, and we're almost out of time, I guess. They want a system that models. Several of them want a system that models real world discussions. Like if 2 people are sitting at a table, we need to log down what they're saying and then work through it. And I guess I do agree on that in some instance. But so I do have a slightly different thesis on what the problem is and what the solution is. And they have slightly different concepts of that. But we are learning from each other, because we'll talk about, okay, this is our difference in opinion on, I'm trying to think of what the most recent one. We're talking about context and debates and stuff like that. And so we're throwing around different definitions of stuff like that. And they recently changed my mind on something where I might want to implement it in Reason Score when before I was reticent about it. So I guess part of the process is working through and coming to an understanding of a shared understanding of the problem and the solution.
Weird. Okay, cool. Weird question. Is your data, like backend data structure, compatible with theirs?
So, no. But we, as a group, we are working on building a shared backend. And
Cool.
then we'll mostly vary on the front end. And then I diverged from that. So I'm
Awesome.
part of the problem.
Okay. I'm asking because I have this. It was one of the enlightening moments, when I participated, saw the discussion about the backend versus front-end separation, as in the data can be all the same, one schema, one structure, one data that is established and vetted is the word. We know the data is correct, it's coherent, and it's there, and we can have a variety of tools and interfaces to this data. So, and that is very powerful idea, because it means it really moves forward a lot of stuff that previously was, for each project, you need to create a front end to show to people and have users and stuff. And you need to have a backend, and it needs to be full of data. So having a shared pool of established data would remove half of the effort for everyone. And it would be awesome.
Yeah, so that is the first place we're going to collaborate, because most of our differences are in the front end, I think. Well, it looks like we're about out of time.
We are. And so we can wrap it up here. This is our, does anyone have a question they want to do next week for the Idea Cafe that we would like to answer for our projects? My brain keeps having issues. But you, Ernesto, do you have a question for us to answer for our projects for Idea Cafe next week? And tomorrow we're doing instead of a project roundtable, we have a solution raising during that time period on sense making, on media and information. I'm actually doing 3 within basically a week. Wednesday was media and entertainment. The Saturday's media and information. And then we're doing social media on Wednesday, because the next Wednesday, because I kind of left that out. I was like, yeah, that actually seems pretty important, considering that's kind of what we're all trying to tackle, or a lot of people are trying to tackle. And that is,
Jubilee, will you have access to the chat for this? Because I was not reading Ernesto's comments.
Yeah, you can always you can come in here. One, they're in Facebook, so they're in our Facebook
Oh, that's right. They're on the Facebook page. Okay,
and
I'll check them out.
You can always come back to this link. It'll be open. You can't put yourself in here, so you can't see yourself, but you could read the comments, or if there's a private chat.
I'll reply on Facebook.
Yeah. And sorry again for not reading the comments, but I don't see a question here, so I don't think it would be great. If you guys could take a look at airup.org. Here, I'll put this up here. That would be great.
Okay.
And if that's your project, Ernesto, if you want to post it in the Facebook group and ask for feedback too, that would be, I think, fine, especially since you aren't able to be on it.
Yeah.
On the videos and the roundtables.
Send the SWAT team.
Send the SWAT team. Yeah. Do you want the SWAT team or the solution or the project raising? All right, we'll say goodbye for now. And next week we're back with an Idea Cafe. We don't quite know what the question is yet. And the week after, board meeting. And then next Saturday we'll be back with our roundtables. And so goodbye, Together Tech community.